Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So today I wanted to talk about how the Mercy and Junkrat changes will affect the rest of the Overwatch cast. Kind of in a similar sense to What's the Meta, but we're going to be looking at our own anecdotal experience. Me and Miska played a lot the night that the Mercy changes went through. Some knee-jerk reactions on Overbuff, what Reddit and the forums have also been saying, but also a little bit of insight from the Overwatch caster ZP, who sat in on a lot of pro team scrims and has seen the results for himself. And it's kind of quelling the fear that we're going to turn it into this triple tank, quad tank meta again. But before we get started, let us know in the comments your winners and losers so far. What heroes have you seen rise in popularity? What heroes have you seen fall dramatically? Let us know in the comments below and see if it sort of corresponds to our list here. We will start with the winners, and the winners, the main ones, are literally all of the other supports. Woohoo! We're in a great spot where a player can now start a game on Hollywood as we had the night the changes went through with, would you like a Zenyatta? Would you like an Ana? A side of wine with your cheese? Maybe play a bit of Moira. It's generally this situation where all of these supports, to an extent, are now much more viable as opposed to it being Mercy plus another support. And a lot of the time that was just Mercy plus Zenyatta as well. Now, the good part is you could still play Mercy. We had Mercy players still playing, but the impact of this hero was a lot less for sure, but still viable in comparison to a hero like Ana. Ana is a hero that I'm still 100% sure needs a little bit more in her favor. She's still a little bit weak in comparison to Ana, Moira, that kind of stuff. But generally, all of the healing supports at least can be used in combinations with one another, and it's really good. It's a really healthy feeling, and because of that, you see more people inclined to pick up the support heroes instead of kind of going triple DPS or triple whatever to avoid playing the Mercy on your team. But when it comes to specific heroes out of these supports, Moira is one to highlight, and there's certainly a lot of talking points here. A lot of people are looking at Moira to be the hero that's going to enable the next meta, especially if it involves a multitude of tanks. This is where I wanted to include what ZP said about Moira and generally the state of the game. He said he had the privilege of watching a great deal of PTR scrims in recent weeks. Mercy is now almost exclusively relegated to Pharah duty, and you do see Moira much more, particularly on maps with usable closed-in areas. He went on to say that seeing Moira more often doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see more quad tanks. Whilst things could easily evolve that way, PTR has kept consistently to 2 DPS, 2 tank, 2 support lineups in most situations. 3 Togs does come up time to time, though particularly on things like Nepal Sanctum and Lijiang Control. And the thing about that last bit is that this was the case in the Mercy meta as well. We saw the triple tanks coming out on Lijiang Tower, on Control Center, Oasis University, that kind of thing as well. So that's not strictly something that's been changed by the meta, but we are going to see more Moira, but it's not necessarily going to enable quad tanks, or at least in ZP's opinion, which it kind of does quell that fear just a little bit. Other winners would include Reinhardt. I think is a hero that has come back a lot ever since these changes went through. He's no longer going to get completely shut down by these big beefy tank compositions that have the Junkrat, the Bastion, that kind of thing. Because if they do get those heroes eliminated, there's no Mercy there to res them back either a lot of the time. So you are going to start to see Reinhardt a little bit more, especially if Lucio starts showing up as well. But generally tank players are going to have a much better time overall. Heroes like Zarya, Roadhog or Reese's pick rate was pretty good already, but that's going to stay stable. I don't necessarily agree that Reese's pick rate is going to drop somewhat because of these changes and the nerfs to Junkrat and Mercy. I don't strictly think that's going to be the case, but the viability across all of the tanks now is in a much healthier spot, and hopefully people will start to pick them up more so if triple tank or quad tank does become a little bit more meta. And now because of this, you start to have this chain of events. Mei and Reaper I think will go up in popularity if the tanks come back in popularity. Reaper is quite a straightforward one when it comes to talking about anti-tank and trying to counter them. He's a lot stronger now than he was the last time that we had any form of triple tank or quad tank setup. He's a little bit more versatile and can look after himself a lot more, but I do think Mei is quite good against these big tanky compositions as well, especially if they include a D.Va on the enemy team. She's a hero that's going to get reworks in some sense as well, and I would like to see Mei become this more anti-tank hero and can anti-dive in herself if they do change up bits and pieces around her. She should be having a similar pick rate to Reaper overall, and she should be quite good at taking down these big quad tank lineups. But that remains to be seen. Hopefully she'll be used a lot to counter any form of tank compositions that do come through. And our last hero that I do want to go over with the winners is Sombra. Sombra is a hero that dropped off quite a lot in popularity, especially on those 2CP maps. ever since Mercy meta started becoming so prominent. Well, now that Mercy's gone, a support slot kinda opens up on these 2 CP maps, and Sombra has gone to being pretty decent again. Very good at hacking health packs near her team and getting EMP pretty much for every single fight that you're going to run. She is useful other times as well, but I do think that strictly she is going to be used a lot in those 2 CP situations, and maybe that's something that we'll start to see again in the Overwatch League when Stage 2 comes around. Now let's talk with the losers, and the biggest loser, no surprise really, is Mercy. Even though she's still a decent sort of spot, she isn't a complete trash tier pick. She gets a lot less resurrections out, and she's just generally not as useful as she once was. It's going to be interesting to see how much her pick rate does drop by, but honestly I don't think that she's in a completely broken, useless spot. I think she should be pretty good to run, and Valkyrie is still a very strong ultimate to run a lot of the time as well. It's just not as strong as it used to be. And trust me, if it's not good enough, Blizzard will buff her just a little bit, but I think they're quite comfortable with where they've left Resurrect specifically. A hero that isn't on the losers list actually is Junkrat. Junkrat is a hero that I think people expected to fall down a lot more in popularity with his changes to the fall off on his mine. But I don't strictly think that that's going to be the case. I still think that Junkrat is still going to be a strong pick, and CP seems to agree again. People expecting the death of Junkrat will likely be disappointed. Though Nerfs is still used in a significant amount of maps and situations, area control and especially Riptide are far too good to ignore. And again, this kind of comes into the idea that you have maps that have different metas and different situations and scenarios that you can run Junkrat on. And it's not surprising, if it sort of tones down how annoying he can be to play, especially when he just throws 2 bombs at you and kills you as a 200 HP target, then that's going to be a lot better. He's still going to be a decent pick, but you can play it around him a lot more than you could before. So whilst Junkrat has had his impactfulness reduced, he isn't a complete trash tier hero by any stretch. Another thing that's on this losers list is the anti-dive comp. Anti-dive comp is the Eraser Roadhog combination that you tend to see a lot, and I do think that we're going to see it less. Not by too much though, just because we're going to see a rise in Lucio and Reinhardt specifically, and they're just going to completely bar through any anti-dive comp that you set up. Eraser's biggest weakness is when people decide that they can actually walk through her shield and walk straight past her, and that's exactly what a Reinhardt and a Lucio are gonna do. They're not going to stick around and wait for you to kill them, are they? These next 2 heroes are going to be only slight in popularity reduction, and I do think that's going to be Pharah, only because the pharmacy combo does become a little bit weaker with Mercy being reduced a lot. And if you do get picked out the sky as Pharah, it does count quite a bit. Again, I don't think that's going to be much, but another loser on this list that I do want to highlight is actually Widowmaker. You would assume that if Mercy's res has been shut down a lot of the time, then Widowmaker would become a lot more popular, because you could, actually get kills on targets and have that impact the game. Well, previously when we spoke to people like Tavik and stuff, he seems to think that the Widowmaker meta was almost a reaction to the rise in Mercy. How it works was you'd have a Widowmaker that would do damage and kill a target on the enemy team, forcing the Mercy to use her Resurrect early, and then you would engage onto them, so they would be a Resurrect down whilst you still had yours. That would be essentially how it would work. So there is a strong chance that if Mercy drops in popularity, Widowmaker might do in the pro scene at least as well. It's hard to say, she might rise in popularity, but going off what Tavik said in the past, this could be a very likely result as well. And finally, who are the biggest losers when it comes to these changes? Well, it's not a hero, it's the over-aggressive idiots that seem to be in a lot of games. What the Mercy meta and the Mercy Resurrect has enabled is people to play much more aggressively and in a much more stupid fashion more than anything, because their mistakes can be erased and rewritten by the Resurrect ability. It's still in the game, but you're not going to be able to have a Mercy resurrect you in the middle of a fight anymore. It's just not going to be possible. So those players that thought that they could get away with everything and not get punished for it will now start to get punished for it. So try and play much more conservatively. It's more of a habit than anything else in particular. It's been like this for so long that it's not surprising that you see people dying in the enemy's backline and expected to get rezzed and then going, oh yeah, shit, sorry, that's not going to be the case anymore. So if that is you, then do be careful, because you can easily cost your team a round or a game by playing in stupid positions, because before you could get away with it. That's no longer the case. This is going to be a brutal week or so whilst people fall down or rise up in the ranked ladder, and this over-aggressive idiots thing will have a lot to do with it. But that's everything I wanted to go over, all of my winners and losers for this patch especially. Do let me know your winners and losers as well, whether you think that Mercy is complete trash tier now, whether Junkrat is a lot more worse than I seem to think he is. Let me know in the comments below what you think as well, and if there's any other heroes I've missed. Let us know your opinions, as I said at the start of the video, on this list, who are your winners and losers, all that jazz. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, take care, we'll see you then.